I'm Alexis, the owner and designer at MergeAndCenter, an Etsy shop that specializes in Google Sheets templates. Today I'm going to show you the simple time log. This is a one spreadsheet tool that is, as implied, very simple to use, um, but it's really effective at just being able to get a sense of where you are spending your time. So this is a great tool to use if you are needing to change up your routine, but you kind of need to assess where you're at right now. If you are just feeling a little bit lost in all of the stuff you have to do and you're wondering where you might be able to create some efficiencies where there weren't before. So this is a really nice tool to use to get a sense of those things. The background information of why I created this tool is that my boss at my day job asked me recently to give her a sense of where I was spending my time. In my day job, I spend time with a lot of different departments and groups. I work on a lot of different projects. So I kind of just wear a lot of hats and there are a lot of things that I do. So having a way to track that and figure out where I'm spending my most time is really valuable. The first time that my boss asked me this question was several months ago, and I did something similar back then where I logged all my time on a spreadsheet. But I wasn't very smart about the way that I did it because what I ended up doing is I was logging my tasks, and then at the very end of the process, maybe like a month and a half of time, I had to go through and categorize all those tasks. I had to calculate the totals from all of those tasks and then put them into a nice pie chart format. And that took a lot of time to accomplish. So this time around, I knew that I could be smarter about it, and I created a tool that I could do the categorizing on the fly, and it would sum up the totals for me as I went, as well as create the pie chart as I went, so I could see things in real time. So that's the background of how this tool was created. This is an example of what the finished product might look like for you. There are a bunch of categories in here. You can see all the totals are calculated in this category table below. And the meat of it all is in this section to the right here. This is where I logged all of my tasks, added descriptions, and categorized everything. When you first get this tool, you're going to have two sheets, a time log and a clean log. Now, you may be thinking, you just said it was a one-sheet tool. Well, it is, but the purpose of the clean log is simply a clean time log that you can duplicate from. So the idea is that you're never going to add any data in here. You're actually just going to leave this clean so that if you want to duplicate this, if you do some time tracking 1 month and then you don't need to anymore, and then maybe several months later you want to do it again, but you don't want to have to go through and delete out all the data that you have in here, which is quite a lot, then you can just duplicate from the clean log. So you're going to get two sheets. They're going to look identical because they're both going to be blank, but the one called clean log is just meant for duplicating. And the way that you duplicate is you right click on that tab and then you'll just click duplicate. And then you can rename it to be August time tracking or whatever makes sense for you. So when you first get the simple time log, it is going to be blank like this. The first thing that you might want to do, if you're like me, is give it a little bit of pizzazz by selecting your preferred emoji. And then the next thing that you're going to want to do is add some categories in here. So in this example, we're going to pretend like I am doing this for my personal life. So I'm going to add some categories in here. Now, inevitably, when you add your categories in, there are going to be things that you don't think of in the moment or that you don't anticipate needing. The nice thing about everything being on one sheet is that when you're logging that task and you get to the category column and you say, oh, well, none of these really fit what I need, you can easily just hop right over here, add that category, and it will be available right away in that dropdown. The category notes here is just if you need to add some context or some guidelines as to how you're using the categories here. So that's an entirely optional column. So once you have some of your categories added, you are ready to start tracking your time. The way that I typically use the date column here is I will add the date, and then for all of that day's tasks, I will skip adding the date. And then the next day, I will add the date there again. So I'm not actually adding the date to every single entry, and that just kind of speeds up the time entry. The time start and the time end columns are going to calculate in the duration column. If you would prefer to just add the amount of time and not worry about logging the time start, time end, you can definitely do that as well, and we'll go over that in just a moment. So let's say I have a 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. task here that I did. So I'm going to type in 9 a.m. Notice how I don't have a space between there. I didn't capitalize AM or do anything fancy there. The formatting here is somewhat forgiving. As long as you're pretty close to a time format, it will auto format that for you. And then I'll put 10 a.m. as my end time. And you can see that the duration calculates to 1 hour. So let's say that was family time. As you can see right away, the pie chart updates and we've got our total in the category table to the left here. Let's add one more example here so we can take a look at how that adapts on the pie chart again. So again, duration auto-calculated for me, and I'm going to add the side hustle category. So now you can see that's just going to be adapting as we go. If you wanted to add your time in the duration column without worrying about the time start and time end, you can definitely do that. The only thing to keep in mind is that when you do so, you're going to overwrite the simple formula that's in that column. This isn't really too big of a deal if you're just going to be switching back and forth between time start and time end and duration, because you're going to have a new row to work with every time, and the simple formula exists on each of these cells. But it's just something to keep in mind if you were to go back and reuse this spreadsheet again, that you might need to create some formulas to use the auto calculation feature if that was important to you. But that's another reason why the clean log exists, because here this has all of the formulas in it. If you just wanted to start fresh with a new sheet, you could just duplicate the clean log there. So I'm going to type something manually into duration. When you type something in here, just format it as hour, minute. So I've got, let's say, an hour and 15 minutes that I want to log. And let's say that was errands and appointments. So again, it's auto adapting, and I didn't need anything in the time start and the time end because I typed it directly into the duration. The last thing I will note about this quick description column, I skipped over it for the purpose of this demo, but if you wanted to add a little bit of context to this, like let's say brunch with family, you can definitely do that because your categories are going to be somewhat broad, so you might want to add a little bit more detail. If the detail isn't important to you and all that you care about is the category itself, and you're not going to be going back to see, well, what exactly was I doing this day at this time with whom, then you can hide this column altogether if it makes it easier for you and quicker to enter your time. The way that you would do that is you select the K column, right click, and select hide column. And this isn't going to break anything about the way that this tracks in the pie chart and in your totals. So you can hide it and you can just proceed as normal and just enter your tasks and just enter categories for them as opposed to having descriptions. And if you want to get that back, all you have to do is hover over these two arrows here and click on that, and it will expand that out again for you. The last thing that I will note is that below the category table here is a section for resources. And this is just a couple of Google Sheets tutorials that I found useful online, as well as the tutorial that you're watching right now, linked here if you ever need to refer back to it. So that is it for the simple time log. It is how it sounds. It is a simple, clean interface. And the purpose of it is really just for you to get a handle on where you're spending your time, whether that's just because you're curious or you're needing to report it to a boss, or because you want to change up your schedule, change up your routine, and you just need to kind of assess things first. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.